Welcome back to Dance Studio Owner Life Coaching. Today, I want to talk about what it's like to be an introverted entrepreneur. Now, this is pretty funny because people usually do not believe me when I say that I am an introvert. And I usually have to explain to them that I can be in a public setting, whether I'm speaking at a conference or, doing something like a podcast. I can do those things, but I recharge my batteries by having time, quiet time to myself. So if you are an introvert, you may have found that being an entrepreneur in such a public facing business can be challenging, sometimes exhausting. And if you are extroverted, this episode would be good for you too, because this might help you understand an introvert in your life. So, what I want to do is kind of help you understand what it's like for an entrepreneur that is introverted and how I've been able to navigate all the different ways that my introversion impacts how I interact as a business owner. One of the things that immediately comes to mind is the day of the recital. I typically do not like to be the one on stage, being the MC, um, greeting the parents, doing the opening speech, or, that is not me. Or those moments when I've maybe accepted an award or um, done something where there's applause and it actually feels a bit uncomfortable and I kind of want to hide in the shadows. Um, and so the important thing to remember that happens with a lot of introverts is that even though we feel uncomfortable in that crowd sometimes, it doesn't mean that we don't want the recognition. And likewise, just because we don't really want to go and hang out all the time with all the people and be an all night socialite, doesn't mean that we don't want to be included and invited. And it's an interesting way to kind of experience life because um, as an introvert, I have found times where I have felt left out because naturally so, people assume that, well, she's just going to say no anyway, so why even bother inviting her? Or I have felt left out in business things because I'm not the social one. I don't go hanging out late at night after party during a dance conference. I don't do certain things that are the social gatherings of dance teachers and studio owners and my friends who are also vendors and speakers at these things. And so sometimes, yeah, I can feel left out, but I also have to remember who I am and um, to what extent I actually want to be involved with certain things because of who I am. So, what I want to do is break this down. I have a few main points that I want to hit. And for me, the first point is a big one. And that is that you do not have to be the center of attention. Business ownership is requiring you to communicate and be visible, but it doesn't require you to constantly perform, to be something you're not, to always be on stage, You can lead without dominating conversations. You can lead, in my case, by sharing the stage. You see, earlier I remember I mentioned that I don't like to be on the stage at the recital and do all those things, right? I have other members of my team. They're on the microphone. They're the one engaging with the audience. Now, I will say, when it's one of my lovely graduating seniors, I grab that mic because I want to be there with them. But I feel strongly that you can share that platform, share that stage, share that leadership with other key people in your business. Um, And I'm going to also say this. I know some people, the way that they work their studio, social media, for example, they are very much the face of their business. They're the one going live on social media. They're making the TikTok videos. They are dancing, making funny content. And that is awesome. But if that's not something that you do, don't feel like you have to. Your business is not hinging on whether or not you dance on TikTok. So remember that your strength can be building strong relationships, smaller conversations, thoughtful follow up, and communication with your customers. You can build trust. You can listen and make your decisions from a grounded place without performing, without being that center of attention. So you can lead your staff meetings as a committee. You can assign things to each of your maybe department heads or managers. They present a different segment. You can also connect with parents through one-on-one conversations. Maybe you're not the type of person to um, hold the group meeting, and maybe that's somebody else on your team, right? And just remember that just because you see other studio owners out there doing things online, it doesn't mean that what you're doing is wrong or not good enough. There are times as an introvert when you may feel not good enough because you're not doing what the extroverts are doing. But remember, their batteries are getting recharged in the midst of being with all these people, and yours get recharged with some solitude. The second point I want to make is based on a book I'm reading, actually. The name of the book is Built to Last. It's by Jim Collins and Jerry Porras. And they found through their research that charismatic leadership was not a prerequisite for building a successful, enduring company. And that matters because so many introverted entrepreneurs assume that they're missing some essential leadership quality simply because they're not the most magnetic person in the room. So their research challenged a long-standing assumption that you need a highly charismatic leader to run a business. So you think of companies that have a charismatic leader. You think of, for example, when we had Steve Jobs, everybody knew Steve Jobs. He was such a prominent leader in Apple that everybody knew his name and who he was, right? But there's also enduring examples of business leaders who you have no idea who the leader is, but that company might have been in business 150 years. They have great success and profitability. So remember, you do not have to have this charisma, my friends. I also want to do a quick plug because it has been a great book to learn and explore. So that book again is Built to Last by Jim Collins and Jerry Porras. My third point is that your introversion is not an excuse to avoid leadership. So just because you are this personality type, it doesn't mean that it's okay for you to just avoid every uncomfortable responsibility. You're still going to have difficult conversations. You still have to do marketing to keep your studio growing. Um, and you'll need to communicate expectations, address problems, and advocate for this industry. What I've learned is that you can learn and acquire skills regardless of your personality type. You, as an introvert, can learn the skills of being a people person. You can learn how to handle these different things in a way that is still authentic to who you are. So, one of the things that I'd like to do here is then provide you some examples. So, it might be helpful to prepare talking points ahead of time if you're going to have to do a staff correction, right? Maybe you're not comfortable with having this conversation, but prepare those talking points in advance. You can also practice your presentation before delivering it. Work your way through that in advance. And when it comes to networking events, even whether it's a chamber of commerce or, something else in your community, you could be selective around which ones you're going to do. You also want to make sure that you follow up with people after meeting with them, but sometimes that can feel kind of uncomfortable. So you can follow up in writing. You can use a text message or an email to follow up after a meeting with someone. And instead of trying to be everywhere with social media and all the platforms, choose a few meaningful marketing channels. Choose something that works for you. For me, we still, to this day in 2026, have great success with email marketing. I've always been a writer. I was an English major for a hot minute in college. I love writing. I love blogging. I love all that stuff. And so writing the emails, creating the guides, the training materials, all the stuff for the recital. I love that. So that's something you can do to like lean into without being in front of a bunch of people. And now my fourth and final point is that as an introvert that needs that time, that alone time, that downtime, renewal has to be built into the schedule. You may need solitude, quiet, or a lower stimulation time to recover from all the things. So, I know for me, it's after the recital, I kind of just want to sit in my pajamas and watch TV, and I don't want anyone to call or text or talk to me, right? Um, I've also had times when after, the busy season, like registration, lots of trial classes, all the stuff, I need to just unplug. Like, I don't even want the TV on at home. I don't want the radio, a podcast. I will drive my car with nothing on because I just need to silence things, right? So, if you know that about yourself, how can you build that into your schedule, right? So, how do you put that? Maybe it's a meeting with yourself, a standing meeting with yourself. You can schedule that. Like for me, I have my days off, Sunday and Thursday, where I don't work on the studio, right? And so that is my time to just be in my own zone. Um, so, some of the practical things that I do in this area, I leave space between meetings. Instead of booking things back to back to back, oh, I'm at the studio and I'm doing a ballet class, and then after that, I can meet with you on this and this and that. I will say, no, I'm not available. I will push meetings so that I have at least 30 minutes in between. I will say, no, I can't meet that day, even though technically there's nothing on my calendar, but it's because I need that space for my mental health, right? Also, think about how do you avoid stacking several socially demanding commitments in one day or one weekend? That became a huge thing with my studio in the last 3 years. My leadership team and I, we would plan out all the events for the year. And every once in a while, something would pop up when we realized we had multiple events, trainings, performances, whatever, all on the same weekend. And whenever possible, I moved things around so that we did not crowd that schedule on that weekend. We are not going to have an event on Friday, on Saturday, and Sunday. We're just not going to do it. It's too much at some point. And even my staff that are more extroverted than I, they also realized they needed that time too. Um, Create office hours instead of being available all day. Protect your time after recital or competition travel. Build in driving time without phone calls. Um, And then things that may drain you, think about how you can delegate those things, right? Because recovery is part of the work, because it protects the quality of your leadership. So I want to close with this. Introverted entrepreneurs do not need to imitate extroverted leaders. Leadership can be calm, deliberate, thoughtful, and highly effective. And you can build a profitable business while protecting the energy required to enjoy your life. And you don't have to be louder in order to become a stronger leader. You may need to just do better systems, clearer boundaries, or more intentional recovery. When you build those into the way you lead, you create a business that can support both you and your success and your well being. So, if you are an introvert, I would love to know some feedback. You can make a comment. You can leave a review on today's podcast. You can hit me up on Instagram at HaithCoxBiz. I would love to know what your thoughts are. If you're an introvert, if you're an extrovert, what it's like and how your personality style has influenced your leadership as a studio owner. Until next time, I wish you the best, my friends.